Story number 4, let's go into John Gruss. John, this is a story that's coming out of thestreet.com, which is a financial publication. Basically, it writes about Wall Street, writes about economic issues. I'm going to read the headline for a couple graphs. Mr. Gruss, and I want you to comment. Here we go with the headline. There's one huge thing employers can do to get workers back into the office is the headline. Now, first couple graphs. For about a year now, employers have been making the push to get workers they sent away during the pandemic to come back into the office. Tech companies, many of whom downsized immensely this year, have been more heavy-handed with their approach. Last month, Amazon reportedly told its employees that if you don't return to the office like it is mandated, then your job promotions are on the line. And here is a quote from an internal document that was leaked. The internal document says, if your role is expected to work from the office 3+ days a week and you're not in compliance, your manager will be made aware and VP approval will be required. Mr. Gruss, I bring up the story not so because of work from home versus, and just the whole conversation that went on, but more so about office space, more so about rentals. Many times during the course of this season, we talked about 55,000 new rentals that are going up and have been developed in the Tri-County, South Florida area. There's a lot of concerns about how office space will play out. And then the retail space that basically serves the office employee. Now that you see a story like this coming out that's saying, basically corporations want their workers in the office 3 days a week. That would mean some of these work from home people would basically have to weekend in Miami, the ones who were occupying the space, the ones who were paying big rents, doing everything they can. And now they would have to effectively go home, fly back. Maybe it's good for Miami International Airport. But Mr. Gruss, what's your take on it? Have we seen the end? Are we seeing the end of the work from home? And what will that mean to all of our real estate sectors, whether it be retail or the office and or residential in the Tri-County, South Florida area, which has had legendary growth since the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that a lot of companies are coming to the conclusion that their employees are just not as productive working from home, and so that's why they want them back in the office. But they've let the cat out of the bag, basically, because now all these people are used to working from home. They're like, hell no, I don't want to go back to the office.
Right.
Get all dressed up and sit in traffic for an hour and get back and do it all again after work, So I think there's going to have to be some incentives. And I think the story points that out to get people to come back. One of them is higher pay, which is, sort of a no duh kind of thing. But actually, when I did a stint in Washington, D.C. for 5 years, and my employer at the time, Kiplinger, the personal finance publications, actually subsidized our parking, and they subsidized our use of the public transportation of the metro. They actually would give us, $100 a month in subsidies for transportation. And, I think that went a long way to making the commute, a little less, less of a burden for employees. Because now, if you're sitting in traffic or traveling for an hour just to get to the office, and you've been working from home and it's been, super easy. You haven't had to buy any work clothes. You can go pick up the kids right after when they get off from school. And now you have to schlep back into the office. You got to have some carrots here to lure them back. And of course, the legendary traffic nightmare that is Miami. There's got to be some reason for you to be stuck on the interstates or the highways to get into downtown or Brickell or wherever it is that you work.
Mr. Gruss, just a follow-up question. You've written about banking, and I guess my question to you is, how does somebody underwrite real estate going forward, especially if some of these mortgages are coming due, whether it be on the commercial side or the residential side? Yeah. How do you underwrite a mortgage if, in fact, you don't actually know what the occupancy could be, as well as what the retail need is going to be? Now, granted, you might have square footage, but if everybody's not showing up every day that employees are not in the office, what does that mean for the company selling the coffee and selling the subs and the catering and stuff like that? So effectively, how do you underwrite this particular wild card?
Yeah, actually, banks have been pulling back on that kind of lending, and it's pretty well documented now. I mean, it's not I mean, it's all a part of it. The rise in interest rates, regulators are coming down on them. The empty office buildings. I mean, every other city. I mean, Miami seems to be somewhat immune from this, but I mean, you look at the disasters in San Francisco and Chicago and New York. I mean, those are where the huge commercial real estate downturns are happening right now. And no lender in their right mind is going to underwrite any project in those areas. And I'm sure they're looking at Miami much the same way. They're being super careful and perhaps not even really pulling back on any of the lending. I have to say the regional banks are the ones that do a lot of commercial real estate lending in Florida. So and they're really under pressure from regulators. They're under pressure from their shareholders to be super careful about how they make loans, and trying to price commercial real estate right now is exactly right. You're exactly right. It's very tough. You don't know how many of those leases are going to be renewed. You have no idea how the retail is doing. I mean, you can find out, but it's not an easy thing to do.
Interesting.